Hello, it is Wednesday, April 8th at 10 a.m. or 10:02 a.m. And I am going to call the CCS Executive Committee meeting to order. Beth, could you do roll? You will need to unmute yourself.
Oh, Beth's phone went away.
And you need to unmute yourself again. And again. Now Kate needs to unmute herself.
Go for it.
Sorry, Alt-A to unmute. Oh, there we go.
Okay, now? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Conway?
Here.
Hello.
Paul?
Here.
Jacobson?
Here.
Kim?
Here.
Murray? Smith?
Here.
And Todd.
Hello.
Also present, Rebecca Malinowski, Beth Sternbrenner, CCS.
Great. Do we have any additions to the agenda today? All right, hearing none. Do we have any public comment?
I have received none via email.
Great. I would also like to ask everyone to refrain from using the chat function. Since this is an official open meeting, we would need to read anything that we put into the chat in to the official recording. So please just state with your words anything you want to say. Next up, what, Alex?
I said, oh, that's a new thing that I heard, but I like it.
Great. Next up, we have the consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Moved. Second.
Thanks, Nick. And a second. Andy, did you second?
Yep.
Great. Beth, could you do roll?
Start with Jacobson?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Todd?
Yep.
Conway?
Yes.
And Paul.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, next up we have COVID needs and planning. So I'm going to ask Rebecca to mute all of us just so that we don't get background noise and have her kind of give us an update on where we're at.
Okay. Mute all. Okay, so you're all muted, I guess. The first kind of item is payment of routine bills. Based on our ability to hold remote meetings, to me, holding a monthly executive committee meeting seems feasible, depending on the length of the quarantine. So I don't see any reason to do anything special here. So I feel fine with that. Any objections? Okay. One element is the governing board schedule for the remainder of the fiscal year. So as noted in your packet, we canceled the meeting in March. So do we want to have a meeting in April or stick with our May meeting? We have a lot of end of year stuff that we need to do, including approving the budget, which would be the biggest component. We also have like committee elections and committee things that we need to do. We've got some bylaws to approve or policies. So I feel like CCS has the bandwidth to hold either April or May, or both April and May. I wanted to get some feedback from executive committee based on your availability as directors during this very odd time, as well as your interest and need in like getting those budget documents and numbers sooner rather than later. So I'm going to actually go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, so what are people's thoughts?
I would vote to postpone until May.
Okay, anyone else?
I kind of feel like a lot of the business items are really important here, and we're already behind on getting the budget approved. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of discussion from it. There wasn't a whole lot in budget and finance. We ran through it pretty well, but I feel like there's got to be some sense of getting back to some normal routine with the governing board. So I'd be for an April meeting if you know, Rebecca's saying that they have the bandwidth to hold it.
Yeah, Heidi, Mick, Alex, what are your thoughts?
So this, I would agree with both of you, April and Mick. No, April would be great, but one of the things I was thinking about is within the budget was was disbursements of the special reserve fund. I can't remember what we call that, the development fund. And I don't see that necessarily on the agenda if that's going to be revisited. I'm hoping it won't be, but that has a lot to do with the budget that I'm creating right now. I'm kind of thinking about, like, I'm baking that in. And so if we are considering taking it out, April is necessary because I'm hoping to have my boards, see their first version of the budget by April, the end of April. And that's part of it. If we're not considering taking that or postponing it because of everything else about property taxes and us not being able to pay stuff and having more of an emergency fund, then May is fine with me, if that makes sense. Sorry to ramble through that process in my head.
No, that makes sense. Heidi, what are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of feel like budgets usually need to be looked at and discussed a couple of times, so we'd probably be saving some grief for the staff if we went ahead and had at least a preliminary Zoom about it in April. And then just in general, to Andy's point about some feeling of normalcy, I really appreciate seeing all of you people and and knowing that, hey, we're still moving forward with this work. It feels really good. So for that reason also, I think April would be great.
Okay. Alex, any thoughts?
I agree that an informational April meeting where we introduce the budget and maybe the candidates for next year's thing, just to put those on people's agenda, not necessarily encourage a lot of debate, but just to put it on their plates so they can see the stuff and think and maybe have some initial discussion. So it's not just in May, here's the budget, we have to approve it now. I think that would make, that seems a little, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to vote, it's going to be presented, it's going to vote and get passed because we've never not passed it. But I think just going through the process and giving people the chance to see it ahead of time and have some preliminary discussion makes sense.
Okay, so it sounds like, hey Sarah, welcome aboard. We're talking about doing an April meeting, and it sounds like we're pretty much all in favor of doing that. It sounds like what we should be talking about at the April meeting is the budget, the new slate of officers, and obviously probably an update on coronavirus, right, and what CCS is doing, and that this will be by Zoom. I would anticipate that the May meeting will probably also be by Zoom. That would be my assumption. So do we want to try and keep it to the last, to the same time frame as we usually have it the last Wednesday of the month, and go from there? Does that sound okay, Rebecca?
Yeah, so typically our meeting would be the fourth Wednesday of the month, which would be 2 weeks from today, but April does have 5 Wednesdays, so we could do April 29th just to give people a little bit more time if their schedules are busy. So we have the 22nd or the 29th.
I would say the 22nd, because if it's the 29th, we're going to know if we're opening or not. I think by then, or at least have an indication, and if we're going to be opening, then I think everyone's going to be focused on that.
Yeah. So I want to make sure with Rebecca and Beth that that'll give you guys enough time to put stuff together.
Yeah, I mean, we've already sent the budget out,
right.
So I'll resend that. We have the slate of officers, and then, based on what we talk about today, we can update our existing COVID materials, so I'm not concerned about that time frame.
Okay. All right, great. Well, then I would entertain a motion to have a special special governing board meeting on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020 via Zoom.
So moved.
Thanks, Alex. And a second?
I'll second.
Oh, I'm going to give it to Heidi, Andy. All right, any discussion? Okay, great. Because we are on Zoom, we have to do a roll call vote for everything. So Beth, could you do that?
Sure, I'll start with Todd, Alex,
Aye.
Conway,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Murray.
Yes? Is it
Yes.
working now?
Yes.
Oh, geez. Okay, sorry.
Did we get everyone? Sorry.
Heidi, did you hear me? I'm sure you're
Oh.
saying yes.
I'm sorry. There's something going on outside my window here. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so then next up, more COVID-19 updates, because that is all we're allowed to talk about right now.
Pretty fun. Cool. So if you've been following CCS news, you'll know that CCS has just gone forth and updated some due dates and things. So essentially what I'm looking for here is feedback from the committee. Do you have any concerns about CCS continuing to just do this work so your staff don't have to open tickets?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Vote for it.
All right. We'll continue to do that. For due dates and hold by dates, we just went ahead and extended those. For library card expiration dates, we asked if we gave libraries the opportunity to opt out or to send us a different date for that, and nobody replied. It was not hard for us to give folks that option moving forward, so we'll probably keep doing that just in case someone's like, no, it's my fiscal year and it's important to me that the dates are right or whatever with library cards. I don't know. We do have a variety of methods that folks are offering remote cards right now. Some are being pretty stringent about residency requirements and some are like, whatever, here's a card. So I just wanted to acknowledge that difference when it came to extending card dates without verifying residency. So, any other comments on that section? Okay. So I've muted everyone so I can run through this ILS considerations for reopening. We're not at the reopening stage yet. I'm sure you'll all let us know as soon as you're able to reopen, and there will be such a flurry of activity. But I wanted to make sure some things were on your radar. There are currently 500,000 items in the CCS system that are due on June 1st. That is astronomically higher than the normal amount, which is fine. But because of that number of items, we're concerned that the auto-renew process would explode at that time. So given that folks have had their materials for longer than they've wanted them, we're going to go ahead whenever it's time to reopen and disable auto-renew for that specific date where everything is going to be due. There might be some folks again, right now we're extending due dates a month beyond this theoretical reopening that, could happen. So there could be folks with actual due dates on that period, but I think they'll be in the minority. So there may be some collateral missed auto renews, but the idea of the system trying to auto renew 500,000 items in one day just seems nuts, as does trying to decide which due dates to stagger and how to keep that up over however long the shutdown period lasts. For reference, I'm using Evanston as one of our higher volume libraries. They currently have 50,000 items due on that June 1st day, and they typically have 2,000 items due in a day. So again, your volume is going to be different than Evanston's, but I think it's important that libraries are aware of that number. Of course, not all patrons are going to wait until that due date to return, and not all are going to return by the due date, but to me, this is something that would need to be addressed through messaging when you're getting ready to reopen. So I just want to make sure it's on the radar about like, we have so many fine-free libraries, so many folks are waiving fines anyway, but encouraging people to not all rush in on the first day to like drop all their 50,000 items off.
Is everyone not waiving fines right now?
Nobody's charging, there's no new fines because everything, all the due dates are extended. But I don't, again, when it's time to reopen and like stuff is due on June 1st.
Rebecca, could you do us a favor? Could we get a report for governing board that lists how many items are checked out at each library? Because I think, like, I know I've been looking at that, and I think that that would be helpful to give people a frame of reference. Because people might be like, well, I'm not as big as Evanston, it'll be fine. When it's like, no, it's not going to be fine. It's going to be bonkers.
Yeah, that's a super simple report for us to pull, so we'll get that for everyone, no problem. Similarly, the pick list is going to be bonkers as well, because patrons are able to continue to place holds now, and it varies, but pick lists are about 2 to 3 times their normal size right now. So we do have documentation, and we'll share it out in like a sort of reopening packet on how to focus on your local holds to fill those first when you're getting back to reopening. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about sort of staggered services reopen, like having staff in the building first. So kind of working through the pick list during that period will give you some resources on how to do that.
Can I pause you to do just a quick poll? I know we're planning to do a staggered opening whenever that will be. I don't think it's going to be May 1st, but let's pretend it is. Is anyone planning to just like open fully to the public, or is everyone, I guess, raise your hand if you're planning to do a staggered opening with just staff in the building for a little bit first. Okay, Beth and Rebecca, you guys aren't planning, you're gonna just bring staff back in, huh? Just let it go wild. I love it. Okay, that's helpful. Thanks, guys.
And then this next bullet, the 24-hour materials hold, I get the latest advice that we've heard is that we're not super concerned about print materials transmitting the virus, but that if you do have concerns, a 24-hour hold would be long enough as opposed to like a 3-day hold that we'd previously kind of been hearing. So staff are researching options to have like a recently returned status. I think some of our libraries already have that in place. But we'll look further into like what we can do to indicate like this stuff is in the building, it's off someone's account, but it's like not available for patrons yet, just to help reduce some confusion during opening.
Just to be clear, what we're planning to do is we're not planning to return anything until after the 24-hour period is.
So you're not going to check it in?
No, because we don't want staff touching it for 24 hours. So we're going to have people glove, return stuff into the book drops, put it on carts, put it in a special quarantine area that no one's allowed to touch, and then just date the carts so that we know when to return them.
Okay.
That might be easier because, right, we want to minimize the amount of touching that's happening.
That makes sense. And then we aren't really here. You'll hear all the delivery stuff that we'll hear, but we'll continue to monitor, and if we need to make any adjustments to account for delivery or changes in delivery, we'll certainly do that. I'll go ahead and unmute everyone. Do you have other questions about like ILS stuff or things that you want more information on for governing board about like what are we going to do about whatever when it comes time to reopen?
So I think something we need to plan for is if we are closed longer, because I think that we will be. Like my target date in my head right now is the beginning of June. And so I think that it would be helpful to look, you know, project out like if there are any ramifications if we have to stay closed for another couple months. I don't know if there are from an ILS perspective, but I think we should assume May 1st, but also plan for longer.
Yeah, I mean, and I think unless, we'll talk about it at our staff meeting. I think unless libraries are changing services or service models, like if libraries are just closed, there's not a lot that we need to do. We're kind of cruising through like we've upgraded training to the new version and we're testing that internally. Well, that's happening right this minute, so it's not done yet. I think we want to have some questions about like what, if any, what sort of training, if anything, CCS should be providing. It doesn't seem worth it to provide ILS training when no one's able to like use those skills. So yeah, we'll talk about it more as a staff. And again, if any of you have other thoughts, and we'll check in with Innovative.
I mean, and I think that there's also like, we're planning kind of a 3-tiered approach to assuming that we'll be able to open with staff first only, and then limited opening to patrons, but we might have to start by just offering curbside delivery. Then we might be able to allow some people in the building. Then eventually we might be able to get back to letting people in and out without monitoring them. So are there any ILS considerations for that? I know my CERC staff has been thinking about it a little bit, but if you guys could also be thinking about if there is anything that we need to think about, like if we're offering curbside, are there any different things that we need to be doing?
Yeah, if you, I'm assuming that most of you do have at least some sort of preliminary reopening plan. If you could send anything to me that you have documented on what these phases might look like, we can review them to look kind of more specifically at what would impact the ILS. And if there's things we could do to like facilitate curbside delivery in a different way or anything. So yeah, if you want to send those, we can review them and use them as examples when we're prepping for governing board.
I'm trying to think of like what other questions other directors are going to ask that we need to have prepped for governing board meeting. Can anyone think of anything else?
Rebecca, when do you think automatic renewal would be turned back on?
We would just turn it off for like the one day that everything is due.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the answer is June 2nd, Alex.
Right, okay.
All right, other thoughts or, oh, Jane, yeah.
I think it makes sense to encourage patrons with last names beginning like A through F to return 1 week, and then G through N another week, and then the end of the alphabet the third week. I know some people won't comply, but that would help space out the returns a little bit.
Yeah,
You thought of that?
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heidi, did you say that you've been thinking about that?
Yeah, well, I saw on the on IDES that they're having, you know, what, A through M on Mondays and Wednesdays apply for unemployment on their website, and N through Z on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then anybody who wasn't able to do it on their day could come on Fridays on the IDES website because it was crashing. So, you know, we were thinking about something like that too. I think we've got people, I'm sure you all do, chomping at the bit, and so the idea of saying you wait a week, I think might be a little long, but the idea of saying, hey, try to help us out and come on Monday, Wednesday, or Saturday if you're these letters, and maybe we can have it broken out more finely than what IDES has, but that's what we're looking at too.
Okay, thanks, Heidi.
All right, any other questions or thoughts? All right, so Rebecca, you want to give us an update on CCS staffing?
Sure. So our staff are able to do almost all of their jobs or all of their tasks remotely already. So while this has certainly been a disruption in terms of length, we are able to do most of our work because the ticket volume and kind of tickets that we're getting has significantly changed with the libraries being closed and varying levels of library staff working from home. We are refocusing our efforts, and that's outlined on page 8 of your packet. So some kind of big components is that instead of focusing on patron UX testing, since we don't want to be interacting with patrons, we're doing virtual UX testing with library staff, actually starting today after this meeting. I'm observing, I'm so excited. So we are working on redesigning ccslib.org and learning.ccslib.org to combine those into one site. So we sort of accelerated and redesigned that schedule to be happening now while we're working remotely. We are obviously not holding in-person training. And as I noted earlier, there's not a ton of benefit in even hosting like synchronous virtual training on the ILS, since nobody's going to like turn around and do ILS stuff tomorrow. So our staff are really working on the onboarding kits that we've been literally talking about for years. So we have the first 2 of those are complete and on the learning portal. One is like Introduction to LEAP and one is like Checkout Basics or something. So staff are working on those and have assignments for the duration of, the next few months of what their tasks are based on their subject area. Despite the libraries being closed, tickets were up 32% in March, largely due to folks saying like, I need you to change my due dates. I need you to change them again. I need this other thing to happen. So we were very happy that we could support libraries during that time. But we anticipate that's falling significantly in April and are adjusting accordingly. We are still working with some libraries on the call number split. So that again is something we can easily do remotely. Thanks, Northbrook. And then IT is, like everyone else, working on documentation. And then we've also been working on staff client installs, because all of a sudden now folks have laptops that they're taking home from the library and they want to install it. So Marston's been doing some virtual sessions with IT folks to help get those laptops set up. So our staff are still working their 37.5-hour work weeks. We have had, like everyone, it's conference season for everyone, including for technology stuff, and they're all canceled. So we anticipate the budget's going to look a little bit different than we anticipated, just in terms, we're not going to spend some of that money we thought we were going to spend. But because our workload is pretty similar to what we've been doing, I'm not recommending any changes to the timing or plans for staff evaluations and then the merit increases that would follow that. We would typically be starting that evaluation process now, and then any increases would go into effect July 1. So we're planning to continue that. One thing that I know that a lot of you have been talking about also is staff PTO. And like, should caps be eliminated or moved or not? CCS staff accrue vacation on a rolling basis, and they can accrue up to 4 or 5 weeks, depending on their number of years worked. So Bob and Virginia are at 5 weeks, the rest of us are at 4. And our policy is that you can accrue up to your cap, and then once you hit your cap, you just don't accrue anything else. So you're not losing, but you're not getting more. So like, also you really are losing. So my recommendation is that we allow CCS staff to accrue up to 1 week beyond their existing cap. Hours could accrue through the stay-at-home order, after which they could only accrue up to their cap, and must be used by the end of next fiscal. And I know that many of you are saying that you're not going to adjust your staff caps because your workload is going to be like significantly increased when folks are back in the library, and you'll need all hands on deck. Our all hands on deck periods are a little bit different than yours, and we've got like the ILS migration for Grays Lake and Palatine is still on track. We're still cruising on that. So you know, our staff won't be able to take vacation. Like, let's say we're in the clear in like July, and we're all back up and running and things are relatively normal. My staff can't go on vacation in August anyway, because we're going to be focused on finishing up those Palatine and Grays Lake projects. So that is my recommendation. I'm open to feedback and discussion.
I mean, that seems
Technically,
pretty fair.
Rebecca, staff continue to accrue new time. It's the old time that rolls off, because you cannot deny a staff member's ability to earn new vacation time, but you can set reasonable limits on how long they have to use it. So they continue to accrue, and it's semantics, but they continue to accrue the new time, but their old time rolls off. So that's how, the result is the same, but when you put it into the policy or whatever, that's how you should word it.
Yeah, we might want to have HR Source look over our policy again, because I'm pretty sure it's written the way I've stated it. So maybe that's something we need to address. But yes, either way, we're in the same boat of they get stuck at a cap.
Do we need to vote? We can just tell you our feedback and we think that you should do this.
Yeah, I mean, during the migration, we temporarily adjusted caps as well. Like when we had 3 months where no one could go on vacation. So we're like, yeah, you can carry over a few hours, like it's fine. So.
Yeah. All right, does anyone have any concerns with doing this? Sarah?
I just have a question.
Sure.
At what point do you reinstitute what their regular max cap would be? Like, you know, if you all come back, say everybody comes back June 1st, you know, we have this project coming up with Grays Lake and Palatine. At what point do you say you can't have 6 weeks anymore? You have to use that time or it's going to roll off?
Yeah, that would be the start of the following fiscal year.
Okay. So
they
it could be up to a year.
July 1, 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems fair. Heidi.
So I have one question, and forgive me if I missed it. There was somebody murdering someone else outside my window here. So is this an all hands on deck period right now for CCS, Rebecca?
This is a regular period for CCS, and we do have staff taking occasional. We had, I think 3 people were off last Friday. Go for it. Have a long weekend.
Absolutely. So this is in anticipation of when things get really busy, when we're back in business, and then all of the new folks coming on board.
Yeah, yes. And also like we had multiple staff that were planning like out of state travel over the next couple of months that like, I don't feel like I can say take your week's vacation and sit at home. So with everyone's schedules being changed, I'd like to give them some flexibility. Yeah.
Well, I like it.
Cool.
Right? I mean, I think we're all on board with you, Rebecca, so go forth and extend.
Yeah, I have no concern. I just wanted to know what the end was going to look like.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like July 1 is like a little bit long, but also the start of a fiscal year seems to make sense.
It's going to fly by.
Yeah, so.
And realistically, I don't think any of us are going to be traveling the rest of this calendar year.
Right. Like, am I going to Hawaii? No, I'm not.
You're not going to go to the RI, the Rotary International Conference this summer? Oh, wait, it was canceled. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. It's fine.
And that's one thing, just as an aside, that's one thing as we're looking at, you know, paying our staff and continuing to pay our staff, and the NSLS directors had a meeting about it on Monday. We're not sending people to conferences. So if there's concern about budget for paying people, we have a chunk of budget that we're not going to spend on what we had anticipated spending it on. So, you know, I don't know how many people you had planned to send to ALA, but that's not happening.
Right.
So, you know, there's money in your budget to cover things that, you know, were unanticipated.
That's a good point.
So is that next year too, Sarah? So you're not sending people to ALA in 2021?
No, we are, but I'm just talking about for
2022 budget.
Yeah, I'm just talking about for right now, you know, as we're talking about paying staff for now, until July of this year, that we have money in our budget that we had anticipated spending on a conference. We're not spending that money on a conference. So if my board comes and says, you know, we have concern about money, then I can say, well, here are, you know, this many thousands of dollars that we were going to spend to send people to conference that we're not. So
Okay.
that's all I'm saying.
All right, Rebecca, any other COVID-19 needs and planning items?
Just 2. One is, do you want to continue with my review on the regular schedule? So we'd also be starting that now-ish. So I could go either way. I want to be respectful of whatever other stuff that you as a group have going on.
I'm fine with continuing. My board is demanding my review next month. Not demanding. My board president said, no, you deserve this. I'm like, I don't deserve how to figure out doing an executive committee meeting on Zoom, but sure, let's do my essential review. I'm fine with continuing though. I mean, we have a few months, so is everyone else okay with continuing and starting that process?
Yeah.
Sure.
And can you remind me who's on the committee for doing the review?
It's the officers who will still be on executive committee next year. So it's like the nominating committee.
That's me.
Alex.
Does that include the secretary?
Yes.
Okay, so
Basically,
Am I on this or not?
me, Jane, who else, and who else?
me.
Kate.
Kate.
Yeah, Kate,
Sarah.
Sarah, and Jane.
Yes.
Just the three of us.
Yes.
Yeah, because Mick, you're not on yet. So next
You're
year you'll
elected.
have the joy.
Okay.
I've got so many thoughts though. Just kidding.
You can share them with whomever you'd like.
I think
Yeah,
Rebecca's
so we'll have a
fantastic.
thing where we'll send it out, and if you guys have any thoughts that you'd like to share with me, you can send them right to Sarah, Jane, and I, right? And so like Rebecca and I will talk. I vaguely remember the process, but we'll go through it. I know we have it written down, thank God.
I'll
we'll
do my
get started.
self-evaluation. I'll send it to Kate, and then Kate and the team will use the same tool to do an evaluation. We'll have a goal-setting conversation. We'll, regular stuff.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be so fun.
Could you do me a favor, Rebecca? Can you send out the tool without your self-evaluation for the three of us to look at? I want to start doing some notes before I'm influenced by your...
Ooh, all right.
In a fine, positive way.
Documented for the process and the tool.
Thank you.
And I'll send it to everyone so everyone has the same information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
If
Okay,
I
and then
had
you said you had one
anything to
other-
say, I would not be waiting until now to say it, so.
I hope not.
It's not going to be a surprise, right? It should be
No
all the stuff
surprise.
we've been telling you already.
Okay, so I will get that sent out. And then the last component, this is again sort of like, do you feel there's a need? We talked internally about would there be a benefit to doing technical group meetings virtually? And we decided at CCS staff that given the variety of staff working and not working, we didn't think there would be enough interest or content for technical group meetings, but that there may be some interest in like a general CCS virtual member meeting that wouldn't be limited to governing board, but would give folks the opportunity to like hear from CCS, ask each other questions, etc.
Yes, I think I think for certain staff, that would be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll get that on the books for April, and then it'll just be a Zoom meeting, and CCS staff will present and answer questions and whatever. So, cool. That is everything I had about CCS COVID-19 needs and planning. Do you guys have any other questions or things that I didn't include that I should be including?
All right, hearing none, we can go on to the member rebates, which I think ultimately, since we're going to meet in April.
Yeah, so Kate and I had talked super briefly before this meeting, about the member rebates. We are not anticipating removing them, to Mick's question earlier, but the Budget and Finance Committee did recommend increasing the amount planned for this year from what we had originally budgeted. We had originally budgeted $125,000 of member rebates from the development fund. And then after some discussion with Budget and Finance, we've upped that amount to $250,000 of member rebates, but we just didn't want to disperse it until Governing Board had the opportunity to vote on the budget and see those numbers. So since we're having a meeting in April, we can go from there.
So this is for next fiscal year.
No, this is for this fiscal. So we had originally for this fiscal said that we were going to do $125,000 of rebate. And then we upped it during the budget process for next year, and looking at where we'd be this year, we upped this year's rebate to $250,000. And then next year's rebate, we have at 293.
Okay.
And so ultimately we'll need two motions. We'll need the motion to approve the budget, right? And then we'll need a motion to approve the increased disbursement. Right, but we don't want to do, right, so we need that to happen, and I think that can happen probably at the April meeting. I would think that that would be easy. And then you'll be voting on the further increased disbursement for FY22.
Yep. Yeah, and I will talk, I'll look at the numbers again. I don't anticipate changing what we have planned for 2021 in terms of disbursement either. To Mick's question, even if there were some like CCS member library budget shortfalls next fiscal, I mean, we'd need to talk about how we want to support and address those. But we still have, even if we expended that 293 next year and the 250 this year, we are still left with a final development balance of $575,000, which doesn't include our operating reserves. So I'm not at a place where I still feel like we need to hold on to that cash. I'd rather still give it back to the libraries. And then when we get to 21, 22, we'll go from there. Does that answer your question, Mick?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if libraries did have shortfalls, and I don't know that any will, and I'm hoping none will, but if they do, that we, and again, this might be a policy, but that we can help them through the hard times, and that CCS has enough capital to be able to do so. That was my ultimate goal, the question behind the question, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like we would still have some wiggle room to support members. We just need to get everyone on the same page on how to do that.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the member rebates? Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
So Kate, you asked me a question. I've accepted the executive director job at the Lake Villa Library. And
Hey!
Congratulations, Nick.
Congratulations.
So this is the perfect opportunity to switch libraries because I have to worry about two different boards and two different libraries now. So I was started there May 11th. My last day at Zion will be May 7th. Zion's a great place. It's just too good of an opportunity to.
Has Zion chosen a interim? Is it going to be Molly?
I told them on Monday. So they are having a special meeting this Saturday, over Zoom, which I will facilitate, but probably walk away and let them just do their thing. They're not sure. I don't know what their plans are. I don't think they're going to probably go with Molly long-term when it comes to interim or anything else like that.
Okay, well, Mick, congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. I can still be the treasurer next year if they vote for me, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, that's a
good.
good.
Helping with Rebecca's evaluation.
Treasurer.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I don't know if anyone can top that. Can anyone top that? No. No, Mick, we're super happy for you.
Thanks.
I'm presuming your staff know?
Yes, almost all my staff know. I've let the managers know, so they're telling, but please don't put it on social media yet, because I don't know that the Lake Villa staff know yet. Okay. Andy wanted to be the one to let them know. She and I were having calls every few days. So yeah, not yet. Wait, if you can possibly contain your glee, wait till next week, please.
This is like juicy. This is exciting news.
I love juice.
Yeah.
No.
It seems stressful to me, honestly. How do you take over a library when you can't actually go in the library or have the keys or the code or anything else?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is going to be a great conference presentation down the road, Nick.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever in the middle of a pandemic and become a director, talk to Mick.
Mick, I can tell you, my husband started a new job on the 23rd of March. He, from our basement, it's not supposed to be a work from home job. So he started from our basement. He has met in person, I think, 2 people that he works with because he met them at the interview. He doesn't know what his workstation looks like. He doesn't know what or cubicle or whatever. He doesn't know where the bathroom is. He doesn't know where the break. He doesn't know anything about anything about his company. And you know, so it can happen.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I interviewed, you know, right when they closed that day, and then I had that interview. So the interview was all spread out in a big meeting room, which was an interesting experience.
I bet.
And so, but no, I at least have been in the building. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
That's wild. All right, guys. Well, it has been fun. It's good to see all of your faces. I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned at 10:47.
And
Oh,
I
Jane
have
has
one
something.
question for you. I have some follow-up questions for you about the information you sent out, reimbursing staff.
I'm going to be sending an update out tomorrow. But yeah, Jane, do you?
Could I give you a ring by chance?
Yeah, here's my cell.
Thank you.
Can you stop the recording? I'm going to declare the meeting adjourned.
Okay.
We can keep.
I better go, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Congrats, Mick.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Are we adjourned?
Okay.
Kate?
We are adjourned.